affordable housing. Two issues that I found right away were there going to be septic required and there's going to be well water required. That becomes a big challenge. So when I talked to zoning for the town, we had a pretty in conversation, and their septic requirements were pretty. I don't even know the right word. Not manageable, I guess you could say, for
Onerous. Difficult.
owners.
Yeah.
For a 100-unit development. The well water wouldn't have been that big of a deal. It was the septic that is what kind of started me to doubt my idea. So now in this picture, you can kind of see I looked in sewers, confirm that I really did have to use septic. So roughly the pink is where the sewer systems go. And per the town, there would be no possibility to tie in even on the bottom part of the property there. So 100% confirmed it would have to be septic. The other thing we looked at is the wetlands, and luckily there wasn't a lot of wetlands surrounding his 25 acres. But there was also groundwater, which I don't know if I fully put it on this picture, but the groundwater was actually good enough to have a well on the property. So I spent 45 minutes on the phone with a zoning and economic development person. He was a great guy, really interested in doing some sort of development that would work for the town. They only had 3,000 residents. So a few of the things that we talked about was the school impact, the impact on the overall town, then the resident impact. So the resident impact was big because his thought process was you're surrounded by 1-acre lot homes. Now you're going to put a mobile home park right in the middle of them. That requires a special permit. He said pretty much every homeowner would probably show up and fight it. Then we talked about the school impact. So he couldn't give me the exact numbers, but he said, what if you just have to go one student over? And now the whole school system has to adjust because you just did a development and you just changed the whole schooling like teacher to child ratio, and now they had to hire another teacher. Is your development worth that in tax dollars in order to offset the potential impact of just the schools? So between having to have a special permit, having to have a hearing for all the residents, the potential school impact, my final decision was a big fat no. So I went through that in a little more of a high level than what happened. So I'm going to give you guys some time to post or ask a few questions about it.
Mike, I'll comment a little bit. I'm surprised that the sewer was more of a problem than well water. Texas, water is, I guess maybe it's, I don't know, but Texas, you have lots of different requirements for sewer with water. Water lines are more prevalent there, but in Austin, you have to have one property per acre if it has to have a sewer and it has water line. However, in Rockport, Texas, which is down by Corpus Christi, I've seen an RV park that has 19 acre that has septic. Makes no sense. And I do agree with you, Mike, on the fact that if you just, some of you guys probably don't even know what a chalkboard is, but it's a blank piece of paper. If you give somebody a blank piece of paper and say, hey, I want to buy this land, it's really doesn't get much going there. You know, I have a piece of property in Kyle, Texas that put 9 acres of multifamily, originally 5 acres of a duplex townhome, and 7 acres was commercial with 1 acre or so carved out for a convenience store. The convenience store had to be 300 feet from the school that was across the street. So there are many, many moving parts in a development. I'll open it for questions as well.
Hey, Mike, I got a quick question for you. This is Jack from Richmond, Virginia. I was going to ask you, was there enough industry for supporting 100 new, I guess, or 600 new trailers, if you will, mobile homes? Sounded like it was a really small community. That was one of my concerns. Could you even get them, sold out or rented out?
Yeah, so one of the first things we looked at was demand in the area. And the closest mobile home park that I want to say was it was over 5 miles away. I forget exactly how far. But the town did say they had some sort of small mobile home park. The zoning guy wouldn't even really call it a mobile home park. But yeah, the biggest needs were affordable housing. So I didn't rule out based on not finding like the inventory of buyers. I thought that would be safe. Even the owner, the land thought mobile home park would be a good idea. And he actually said if one developed a mobile home park, he would then come back and buy it, which was interesting. So I felt like it was definitely a big enough population for people that would need that type of housing.
My studies,
Thank you, sir.
mobile home parks, RV parks acting as long-term rentals are always hard to get approved, but there's always a need. Salary of a person in the U.S. Whatever. I'll give you one quick example. My property that I had in Kyle that I spoke about briefly earlier. The 1-bedroom apartment rented for $900 a month. Nice Roberts Communities mobile home park just to the south of it. Rented the dirt for $400 a month, and for some reason mobile homes are amortized over 23 years. I don't think they think exploded after 24. I don't know the reason for it, but so you have so the payment for a mobile home park amortized over 23 years was $523. So you have an option of renting an apartment for $900, 1-bedroom apartment for $900, or having a $923 all in with a little piece of dirt, right, place to park your truck, place to barbecue, place to keep your dog, and you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single wide at by 84. I don't know of any particular demographic studies that can be done on that type process, or that type product versus the self-storage. You can go do a demographics on the self-storage, but I think it's almost inevitable if you can find one, it'll fill up. My opinion, for what it's worth.
All right, I know there's people with questions. I'm a question person, so not a big presenter. I like to answer questions and get some engagement. Gotta have something. I know if the people aren't not coming up with a question. If you don't want to talk, put it in the chat.
And I don't know if this is a question. I guess it's a question. There's a property around the corner from me in downtown Idaho Falls, which is like an empty 34,000 square foot space. And I'm talking about storage units now. I went and looked at it, and I think it would be a great conversion to storage units, and even maybe you can put a second floor on there. Do you have any thoughts about that, converting like open warehouse contained areas like on a whole block in a great location.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty common right now, conversions. Do you have the listing?
Now, the owner of the property is actually an agent.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about storage next, but I would do a lot of research, just like I'm going to kind of explain a little bit in the slides to determine if that is a good fit for storage. Then reach out to a company that does build on top of buildings and see if that's even feasible to add a second story. There's plenty of companies out there that can tell just by giving them an address. Definitely do some homework, but conversions are very popular right now.
Yeah, Joya, as far as height, it really depends on, depends on the population of the town. Austin is a 4-story self-storage because the land costs so much, and I have some property in College Station. There's some 2 stories there. Then I have a lesser populated town. It's in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's 1 story. So a lot of people don't, lower populated cities don't think that land is cherished as much, but they're not making it anymore. You also have to make sure that the zoning will allow that. Typically, warehouses and self-storage are under the same zoning, but in some cases it may be.
I do have a question, Michael or Mike, James. I'm new to the working with mobile home deals, and I have a client I'm working with who is interested in purchasing a mobile home. Right now, well, before we submit the LOI, which would be sometime next week, he's just getting his financing in place. So what are some of the things I should be doing as his agent to best assist him with making the decision?
Just a single mobile home or a full mobile home park?
It is a mobile home park. Currently, it has 12 trailers on it with room to add at least another 40. The other agent has supplied us with the financials to include rent history, to include titles or deeds for each of the individual trailers. So I just want to make sure that I do what I need to do as an agent to assist him with his due diligence.
James, you're better at mobile home parks than me.
Yeah, that's a very detailed question. And I was talking to one of my mentees, Sandy Litter, about this. In Texas, the contracts have many, you have from A through Z there. And I've been a member of Frank and Dave's Mobile Home University, and I've developed other criteria. But I would say that the main thing you have to make sure in this case is typically when you're financing mobile home park, it doesn't include the income from the trailers. So if the rent for the lot is $400 times 12, that's the actual price that you use for financing it, because the trailers typically depreciate. The other thing that you need to make sure is, can you actually put 40 units on there? Tell me what kind of data that they gave you to say, hey, 40 units are ready to roll. How many acres is it in addition to that?
Yeah, I don't have it. I don't have it right in front of me. The actual packet that the agent sent me. I just presented the question since Michael said, I know people have questions. And so I am actually working this particular deal, or I will soon. So it's if I recall, it's about 6 acres.
Okay, that's total. So you have 12 acres, 12 trailers, and plus the additional lot, the additional land on 6 acres, or 6.
Yes.
seems a little tight personally, because an average mobile home park has 8 to 10 per acre, and average RV park is 10 to 12 per acre. And that is with city water, city sewer.
Okay.
That's just a rough number. And you don't want to, you don't want to, in my experience, for example, I had an apartment complex that I got rezoned, things that Mike's talking about here. Deal was, we wanted 300, came in at 500. 500 would have made an ugly apartment complex. 300 unit apartment complex is nice. Same thing could be said for mobile home park or RV park.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
My deal, it needs to be too crowded, right? Because you're going to, if you have a higher quality mobile home park, you're going to get a higher quality rent.
Okay.
And April, please, email me whatever you got, and I'll give you some feedback one-on-one.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, one last thing to add to that. I'm not sure if they're selling it as, hey, you can develop more. But I've noticed a lot of self-storage and mobile home sales right now are trying to that into the sale price. So they're saying, oh, well, there's another 5 acres that you can develop, so now you have to pay this much more. And that's not practical. Not saying that's the case here, but definitely something to consider.
Thank you. In this case, based on what you've all shared, or what you've both shared, I know that one of the main things I need to do is call the zoning department and just check to confirm that the land will accommodate what the seller is saying, as part of us offering a price, as well as making sure this is going to be a good fit for my client. Thank you.
Is it in the city limits, or is it in a county?
It is in the county. It is in Alabama. I believe it's Tallahassee, Alabama. And it is in the county. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all the laws in 50 states, but it's almost impossible to get a mobile home park. It is impossible to get a park zoned in Austin. But you can get something out in Travis County.
Okay. Thanks again.
Sure.
Hey, Jack, you want to tell us real quick about your storage opportunity? And then you can even drop some info in the chat for everyone.
Yeah, 10-4. I picked it up just this morning, so I do apologize. The owner had worked up a 94-page prospectus on it, and he sent it over. And it's got several little buildings on it already, like he calls it a hangar, like an airplane hangar. He's kind of joking, but then there's some offices up front. That's already part of the package, and it's already part of the 8 acres. It can be multi-level storage. It could be, drive up. It could really be either. It's already been zoned for it. He's already gone through the process. He's had it since 2017. He just kind of got to the point he's tired of messing with it. So he's ready to sell it, but he's asking 3.2 million for it. And it's just outside one of the busiest areas in Central Virginia here in Richmond.
Yeah, that's great.
The 94-page summary. That's a short little summary, but does it go into detail on how he justifies his $3.4 million price?
Yeah, it's 3.2 million, but yes, sir, it does. It's got
Yeah.
it's got the place for, it's just full of information. I was scanning through it just before I got on here, but it's got information about occupancy around it and the need. And it's on it's really, I would call it on Broad Street, but Broad Street runs from, East Coast all the way up and down from New York to Florida. So it's a great location, and just outside Glen Allen, which is really a very densely populated area with no land left.
So you would consider Glen Allen, that Richmond area, a 4-story town?
It would be, yes. Yes.
Okay, understand. I know that Richmond's not a small city, but I don't know how big it is.
Yeah, we're like 1.5 million in our, in metropolitan
Metro
area,
area.
greater metropolitan. Yeah. So we're not
Four-story
huge,
town.
but it's the western part, which is the wealthiest part of the Richmond area where this is located. And
Hey, Robert.
there's no land left.
Robert, can you mute your mic?
Yeah, I was about to ask a quick question. Did he, as part of that, the 95-page document, does he have a, did he do a third-party market feasibility study that's in that?
That's what it is. It's actually a third-party market feasibility study. That's what he gave me this morning. So it's really nice. He has asked, and I know we've only got, less than 60 people in here, so I appreciate if you guys keep it on the quiet. He's got his partner has asked that we don't just broadcast it or put it on LoopNet or see, CoStar or MLS. So, but he wanted me to present it. So there you go. Anybody wants information, just just reach out to me if you can. I don't know what the best way is to get back with me on that. I haven't done too many of these classes.
Type your email and phone number in the chat.
You got it.
Mike, Sam Alder asked an interesting question. He wanted to know how long it takes to get a mobile home park or self-storage developed. That's a elusive question. It really depends on where you are. It may take you 5 years in California, but you may be able to do it in months or so in parts of Texas. For example, in Texas, they have if you're out in the county and they have a term that's called extraterritorial jurisdiction. You've got 2 to 3 miles outside the city limits, right? So you can build whatever you want to out there, and so you can go find a 5-acre parcel out in the 10 or so miles from Austin and build whatever you want. And if it's in the county, they just want to make sure you got the correct stuff for drainage. You could, in theory, build a 100-story apartment complex out there, but it has to make sense from a water and sewer standpoint, as well as from a aesthetic standpoint. Self-storage has the advantage that you don't really need too much water. I mean, my self-storage in College Station is on a well, got a couple of water taps. That's all I have, and I've got 5 acres out there. So that question is, it depends. I'm not an attorney, but it does depend on your jurisdiction and where you are.
All right, let's move on to the potential self-storage development. So for the people in here that like Reonomy, this came through a mailer I sent. This property is like 10 minutes from my house. See the little red building up top? That's where I sent the mailer. It's about a 4,000 square foot industrial building, probably like a small warehouse. It was a machine shop, sits on a little over an acre. And as I was talking to her, she said, "Oh, I have land behind it too. I don't know what to do with it. Should I just include it in the price, or should we try something else?" So that's what I have circled is 3.5 acres, and it's what I deem shovel ready because it's perfectly flat. Her son used it as like you could kind of tell, like a little racetrack for his bike a long time ago. So right now at that 3.5 acres, perfectly flat. 15 acres total. However, if you look to the right of the open area, there's a stream that runs through it. So that's going to take off. I'm not even sure how many acres yet. I haven't calculated it. So she pretty sophisticated, knows the area is industrial. She knows industrial's pretty hot right now. Originally, we came to a price for the building of between 350 and 400. Then once she started doing a little research on the land, she called me and she said, "Hey, let's go for $1 million for everything." And you know, the minute I got off the phone with her, she talked to her husband, and then all of a sudden they're at 1.5 million. So it's hard to gauge the land's really going to be worth because most of the residential or most of the land in the area is residential. There's very little industrial land left. So we know at least she wants 350 to 400 for the building, and in my personal opinion, I think she'll take whatever she can get for the land, but she wants to start high to try to and across the street they just bought a Hallmark card warehouse. I forget the name of the company. They converted it into like a 500,000 square foot distribution facility, then a 300,000 square foot distribution facility next to it, and then they bought and going to put up like another 1,000,000 square foot distribution facility. So since she knows all that information, I think she's trying to get top dollar for this lot. So I sent it to one of my investors, and this was his initial response. There's a few facilities that are local, probably maybe like 10 minutes away, that are all full. There's only one major facility, which is CubeSmart, not too nearby, but still in the same town. The closest facility is probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes away, and it's full packed to the point where like there's boats and RVs literally in every spot you could see. So 100% full. And based on some initial analysis, there seems to still be a high demand for storage in the area. Cons he came up with are the land was definitely way too high for him. He valued it at $1,000 per acre based on comps that he looked up, which is hard because most of the comps are residential. Valued the building at 300,000. He some rough numbers. He was going to do between a 30 and potentially 40,000 square foot storage facility, and he thought that it would cost him about 4.1 million. So that was his offer, $500,000. I've actually strategized an offer already, and I presented it to her, and she said, absolutely not. Still hoping for the big win. She's said keep it in mind for the future, but she would like more people to have a look at the property and actually publicly list it versus like keeping it off market. Since then, I've done a little bit more research, and there's no specific zoning in this town for self-storage. So you have to go off of special permit. And back in April, another company was trying to do self-storage probably about 5 miles away. There was going to be a conversion of an old retail building. And the zoning came back with a decision that since there is no town ordinances or zoning specific for self-storage, that they would have to go off of the current zoning that the self-storage facilities in town already sit on. So that would be industrial 1. This land and some other land in the surrounding area is pretty much the only industrial 1 land left in this town to be developed on. So still think there's potential for storage, not 100% sure. Still have to do a little bit more research, but I definitely think based on the surrounding area and the need for industrial, how close it is to our major highway, massive industrial building that they built across the street. I don't think she'll get the price of 1.5 million, but I think someone will come along, sort of industrial development land. Questions on this one?
Mike, was this a 4-story building or just 1 or 2?
He planned it out as just single story.
Hard to believe it's gonna take them $100 a square foot to build a self-storage. They're blowing smoke each way, right? It's probably worth $1 million.
Oh,
Came up
yeah.
with, he came up with 4.1 million for 30 to 40,000 square feet. I think a typical self-storage can be built, not including the dollars per foot at most.
Yeah, he's very analytical. He tends to estimate things much higher and tends to very low offers. So it wasn't unexpected for him. That feedback.
Yeah.
Scott, go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say, I would agree that $100 per square foot is on the steep end for cost of construction, but yeah, maybe $70 a square foot would be more normal for new build, single story construction, but it's definitely ramping up a fair bit these days, with the cost of steel, having gone up substantially over the last 6 months. And it goes up just over the life of the projects. Can't even budget now. So I would definitely agree that he's wise to budget in a high number, even if it's probably on the high side. And
Yeah, David.
as far as that $1 million number, that's probably not a workable number for that type of site. You can't probably, depending on, unless they got a really massive rates, that's probably not a workable number for a self-storage deal. Given, a lot of the brokers I've worked with are going to balk at $1 million number, and on that type of site, the type of square footage you're talking about.
Yeah, David, I forgot about the rise in price in steel. You obviously know a little bit more about self-storage than me recently. Prices.
Yeah, this investor, I mean, he probably doubles everything for all I know. And I agree. The land, in my opinion, is worth like $200,000 probably. Usually when owners start high, my experience, they come to the realization that not what they're going to get. And after you talk to multiple people, then usually bring them down to reality. The building, definitely 350, 400. If I sold it alone, it would probably sell in a few days. I sold a similar building, almost exactly the same, in another town in like 3 days. So I'll give her the building, but the land, no. Who else has some questions?
David Spencer, what do you think the land is worth?
I couldn't say honestly without looking at the market, without looking at the rates of bringing it around there. I would hesitate to try and put a value on the land.
Okay.
I mean, if you went off of his comps, it's valued at 150,000. He pulled like 3 years of sold land. Even if I think if you took out the residential, it still doesn't really change much. So just statistically off of comps, it's worth $150,000.
Yeah, people tend to get, dollar signs in their eyes when they hear that storage can be built on it, but it doesn't really change the underlying value of the land if it doesn't pencil out in terms of the finances of the deal. You know, just because somebody can build storage on it doesn't mean it's going to pencil out somebody to pay that much more for the land than it was worth before. We'll just go find another site.
Yeah, so she's like I said, I think she thinks she's hated because her dad was a big developer. She got lucky and sold a Dunkin' Donuts for $3 million. Her dad helped develop a few other things, so I think she's researching industrial, self-storage, some of the hot items that are happening right now, and thinking that she could potentially capitalize on it.
Well, I agree with David. It's got to be a wanted area, and you also have to have you have to leave a little meat on the bone, as they say, because steel prices could go up, or you can have got 10 to 20% variance in other items as well. Just you can't expect maximum price for a piece of land. I've done lots of land deals myself, and I always pick them up for the right price, but you always have to make sure that the development.
So I mean, sometimes the way I look at it is I would list this as unbased. I wouldn't put a price on it because I think the 1.5 will scare people away. But I mean, if you were an owner and you knew you potentially had a prime spot, you're going to try to get the most you can. And she knows it's not worth that. She knows it's worth a lot less, but in her mind, seeing what's going on and the lack of land in the area, wants to give it a shot. So while I hear what she's saying, I think listing it unpriced and then getting feedback from people that will end up calling me will help her come to the realization of what its true value is to someone. Who else has some questions? Now we can just go into random questions.
Michael, I'll make a random thought on listing something unpriced. Something's listed unpriced, I generally don't even call them back because that means much for it. Maybe in this kind of market, it may make.
Yeah, so I never do stuff unpriced either, but you do get some interest, at least where I am. So that way I can at least get the person on the phone and feel them out, rather than having them just overlook my listing. So if it's something that they're curious on up here and it's unpriced, they'll call you. But I'm dead against that strategy too. And a lot of people in my area, that's all they do is put unpriced listings up.
I agree. You have to satisfy your customer. Wants 1.5 million, you don't think it's worth that, you can at least get a few phone calls by putting it unpriced. Probably won't get many calls at 1.5 million, for sure, right? Based upon dialogue that's taken place here so far with you and David and some other guys.
Yeah, and even with this guy offering 5, she talked through it, so she knows. She's just trying to hold out because she thinks more. So I can understand both points of view. And Vinu, there was, for the comps, there was land and commercial. There wasn't a lot of industrial, so we went off commercial comps of 10,000 per acre. There's not much residential actually around this area.
Michael, this is April Purnell again. You mentioned that with this particular property owner, you found her by way of Reonomy. You shared that you sent out just some of the marketing pieces or what have you from Reonomy. Just wanted to have an idea of what did that conversation kind of go like, or what did you actually mention in your marketing material when you reached out to these different property owners?
So I always forget that we get 15 letters for free, and I figure, hey, why not take advantage of them? So my Reonomy resets on the 13th. So usually on the 13th, I end up just sending out 15 random letters. So I created like a standard letter. That way I could just do it real quick. The letter's pretty basic. A background of eXp, just a little information on eXp Realty, since I'm one of like 3 people in commercial in our area, so they don't really understand that we're actual full commercial agents. Then I give probably a paragraph or 2 about my background, and then I just ask them if there's any way I could help them with anything. And she got the letter called. She said she looked up eXp online first. She looked me up a little bit, and kind of went from there. And then like she gave me the listing on the first phone call, but even on the second phone call, she talked about eXp commercial a lot. So she she did a lot of research on us.
Okay, okay. So pretty much you just send out random letters that just introducing yourself. Hey, I'm the new kid on the block with this particular company. This is my experiences. This is how long we've been in business. This is my experience. Let me know if I can be of any assistance. That was pretty much it, right?
Yeah, pretty basic. I don't ever use the word new.
Okay.
And I know what you meant, but yeah, I don't use new at all. And I focused more on eXp as a company, because if they look up EXPI, they'll see that we're a pretty big, powerful company, versus if they look up eXp commercial, they'll see that we're new and small, and we're not one of the big firms that are out in my area right now. So, the beginning focused on eXp as a company, then a little bit on eXp Realty, then about commercial, then about my experience, then yeah, offering them help. I don't ever ask for like a listing or ask if they're selling anything or if they're interested in buying. More or less like a, hey, you want to build a relationship, or I'd like to get to know you. Is there any way I could help you in anything?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, whether you're a small company or a small real estate firm, you don't have lots of experience around you that have tons and tons of years.
Understood.
Yeah,
So,
Jack. Oh, go
well,
ahead.
I do have a question, Michael. So you've mentioned that you never use the word new. So in my instance, I am newer in my area. Um, so in that case, I should come up with a different way of saying I'm a new agent in town. Don't use the word new. I'm
Yeah, I
asking
mean
a question.
that's just my opinion. I mean, I don't. You kind of write it however you think. I just think when you say new, that means you don't know your market, and they're not going to want to call you. Or to them, new will mean you're a new realtor and may not want to talk to you.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely say work. I always tell my new residential agents that I work with, they want to learn about commercial, tell yeah, say you work with an experienced team.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, Jack, I'm probably too laid back. Like I almost never even ask for like an exclusive contract. And you know, I always say it, and sometimes they believe me, sometimes they don't, that I just do it for fun and to actually help people. So I'll do any kind of transaction as long as I think I'll have fun doing it and that I can actually help them. If they're unrealistic, I normally stay away, but this lady's a real nice lady and I think I could help her one way or another.
I personally have found that when you just focus on building a relationship with people, building that trust, um, the the idea of them wanting to do business with you just kind of flows. It's like the next natural cause of action. So going in for the kill, asking for the sell all the time in this instance isn't always the best idea.
Yeah, and I mean, I could give an example of that real quick. So I moved to where I live, but I was a town over, and it was about a year and a half ago. And I drove by a retail plaza that had a vacancy, and the owner had a sign up. And for a year and a half, I've drove by this sign and saw the vacancy. So finally, one day, I was like, I'm just gonna call him and see if I can help him. So I called him and said, "Hey, is there any way I could just help you?" I'm like, "I'll market it for you. I'll just hand you the leads. I'm like, I just need you to sign something that says you're authorizing me to, list it on the internet for you." So he said, yeah. And then I'm negotiating right now with a tenant for him. They're a national company. It's called GoPuff. And they do kind of like DoorDash, but they actually have their own product on site. So, by helping him get that, or almost get it, we're still negotiating it. He's given me about 4 other properties that he has space available to lease now. So a lot of people don't often do stuff for free, but the 20 minutes it took for me to do the few listings for him, gained 4 listings, and he's going to pay me on bringing this tenant into him.
Congratulations, note taken.
All right, we got like 5 minutes left. Anyone else have any questions? Jim, you got anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
All right, the slides are in the chat for everyone. Sam, how would you get into commercial from scratch? Pretty much education. So you're gonna have to learn before you get going. So I'm not sure where you live or what you're in, but maybe reach out to someone in commercial and see if you can tag along with them.
Well, Mike, eXp has a very good program now with the symposium every 3 months, and it has the 3 days of training for getting somebody to be commercially certified, and then they have a solar program and then type of meetings once. Second to none, in my opinion, but it'll take 6 months for you to get everything done, but a lot less time than most people have to.
Yeah,
What financial strategy do you follow? Like, there are various financing, like owner financing, private lending, hard money lending. So usually what is the best you recommend for situations like this?
Owner
I mis-
financing is obviously the easiest, because you don't have to deal with the banks. And then owner financing is number one. If you have the strength to do bank financing, that's number two. And then number three is private equity or money. For example, I'm looking at an RV park in Lake Charles, and it's valued at $7 million. I don't have the $2 million for down payment, but I will find a money partner that has an understanding of the real estate business, and I'll give him 50% of the equity if he's got the $2 million.
Okay. And if you're going for
Yeah, I didn't understand you.
when you go for a private lending, do you know what is the best fit that is in the market right now?
Still looking for that great private lender. I found a guy, again, this property in Lake Charles, I went down and looked at it a week or so ago. It's on 10X, it's a 10X auction. And I found a guy that's got $5.2 billion, but I haven't talked to him yet. That would be a great private lender, right? Because the gentleman that I talked to said he understands RV parks and he's got $5.2 billion. You know, that's $1 billion is what, less than 1% of what he's got.
Yeah, but what would be the rate of interest on a private lending in present market? Like, again, every individual it varies.
7 to 8%, 7 to 10%. But you know, with a private lender, for example, the RV park, it's not even going for 7 million, but it would be, say I pick this RV park up for $4 million. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it because I don't have the money right now. Haven't had enough time to develop the relationship. But if I get it for $4 million and it's worth 7, and then whenever I get it stabilized at 95% occupancy when it's only at 85% now, I'm 80%, then it's worth 8 or 10 million. Then you can go to a regular bank and get a loan at 4.25.
Gotcha. So you mean to say somewhere around 7 to 10%.
Yeah, you know, but I'd pay 12 if I could find it.
Wow.
I mean, you know, if you have a partner, you're going to give up 50% equity, pay 12%, and you have a strategy to get out of it in 3 to 6 months. It's a heck of a lot less than giving up 50% of your profit.
Yeah, of course, I agree. Yeah.
Might pay 20. Got 20% for me if I knew at 2 million.
Wow.
Joking.
20% is a lot.
No, I'm being a little bit facetious,
you mean
but
equity
yeah,
or you mean interest rate on the private lending?
yeah, 20% interest rate.
Oh. So
You know,
don't you think there's
I'm being a little bit facetious, okay? But it really depends. I know I'm sounding like a lawyer today, but it depends on how good the deal is. If I can pick this property up for 40% of the value, then I know that I should be able to get into a long-term bank financing in 3 months.
Mhm.
So 20%, it's annualized it. You're annualizing over 20%, but you're in 3 months you're spending what, 4%, right? So that's a heck of a lot less than giving a partner 20%, or typically you got to give a partner 50 to 70%, right?
You're right. So in 3 months, you said you will go for the bank. So in these 3 months, what do you do? Like, are you saying that you are able to complete your project in 3 months? That's what you're saying?
The property is nice. The deal is you just have to you have to implement state-of-the-art techniques, digital marketing, that kind of aspect, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to go build any roads. It's not a big problem.
So
No.
you say you're going for a loan on the land in 3 months. That's what you're saying.
I should be able to, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So usually they go for a loan for a land. What would the banks charge?
All land, probably 5 to 6 is my guess.
Oh,
They're not gonna give, they're only gonna give you 10 LTV roughly.
oh, okay.
That's just my
And 5%,
my 2-year-old guess. Right? I don't know what's been going on, and
okay, okay.
we
And to
don't
what,
buy. I don't buy land. I like to make sure my nickel is covered, right? So I do what's called a covered land play.
Okay.
All right, Mike, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Great, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you turning out.
Thank you. We appreciate you both.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
you,
Have a good
guys.
one.